The first time I touched the rock wall was January of 2024. I was 18 and had no prior interest in climbing, but my friends talked me into it. They say the best way to conquer your fears is to face them head on, and for me, that saying took on a literal meaning thanks to a strange twist of fate involving a rock wall and a whole lot of trembling. Now, the irony isn't lost on me. I dedicate my free time to scaling towering walls, clinging in tiny holds, yet the thought of standing on the edge of a balcony makes my stomach churn. I am, unfortunately, a rock climber who is afraid of heights. So imagine my surprise when I found myself not just near, but on a rock climbing wall. It wasn't a sudden, manic decision, more of a slow, curious pull. I'd seen people scaling the artificial cliffs, all grace and power, and something inside me, despite the fear, was drawn to that challenge. It started with small, hesitant attempts, my palms sweating even before my feet left the ground. The higher I went, the more excited I got. This isn't so bad. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and utterly consuming all at once. But I made it to the top. 3 stories high, just under 40 feet. I was there. And then it was time to rappel. My belay, one of my best friends, said, "Way to go! Okay, now let go of the wall." Let go of the wall! My heart pounded, and the more my friends on the ground encouraged me to let go, the more my knuckles turned white gripping the holds. When I did finally manage to leave the wall, I landed on my butt and sat trembling on the padded ground almost in tears. Eventually, I got up, and I did it again. Here's the thing about rock climbing. It's not just about going up. It's about finding your balance, about trusting your body, and about pushing past the limitations you thought you had. Each time I reached for the next hold, each time I pulled myself a little higher, I was also chipping away at my fear. It wasn't magic. It was a slow, deliberate process of learning to breathe, to focus, and to believe in myself, as weird as that sounds. That fear didn't exactly disappear. It's still there, that knot in my stomach, that slight hesitation before unclipping, but now it's a different kind of fear. It's a familiar companion, a reminder of the challenge, and not an insurmountable obstacle. I've learned to manage it, to harness its energy and turn it into focus. I learned to trust the safety systems, to trust my training, and most importantly, trust in my own ability. The fear of heights, or acrophobia, is believed to have an evolutionary basis rooted in the need to avoid falls, which posed a significant threat to early hominoids. Individuals who were naturally more conscious around heights would have been less likely to suffer debilitating or fatal injuries, thus increasing their chances of survival and reproduction, passing on their aversion to heights to future generations. While not necessarily a phobia, this innate sensitivity to height is likely a survival mechanism ingrained through millennia of evolution. I didn't start out tackling daunting overhangs and climbing outside. I began on the easiest routes, the 5-7s, focusing on mastering basic techniques and building my confidence. Each successful climb, no matter how small, chipped away at the fear's power. It's a testament to the power of breaking down a big goal into manageable steps. But still, there was a voice in the back of my head saying, what if you fall? What if the rope messes up? What if something in the harness decides that it wants to break? What if my belay just lets go of me? But then, I actually start climbing. Instead of dwelling on the potential consequences of a fall, I concentrate on the next hold, meticulously analyzing its texture and the best way to grip it. Simultaneously, a deliberate focus on breathing, steady, rhythmic inhalations and exhalations, helps to calm the nervous system and ground me in the present moment. This mindful approach, where I am fully immersed in the physical sensations and micro-decisions of each movement, effectively overrides the looming fear of heights, allowing me to ascend with a sense of controlled precision and focus. When I'm on the wall, I can't afford to dwell on the what-ifs. Focusing on the next handhold, the next foot placement, the rhythm of my breath, this anchors me in the present moment. It's a form of active mindfulness, a way to push aside the anxious thoughts and engage completely with the physical challenge. Repeated practice of climbing techniques is fundamental for me to building confidence on the rock and mitigating fear-based reactions. Initially, a challenging move or a challenging route might trigger an instinctive fear response, leading to hesitation and inefficient movements. However, through consistent repetition, I have gradually gotten better at the techniques, transforming the daunting obstacles into familiar sequences. This mastery reduces the perceived threat, replacing fear with a sense of control and competence. Over time, I've developed muscle memory and a deeper understanding of body positioning and balance, which has allowed me to execute moves smoothly and efficiently, even under pressure. This cycle of practice, mastery, and reduced fear fosters a positive feedback loop, fueling further progress and leading to increased confidence on increasingly challenging climbs. North face, the north face of our rock wall, has a slight overhang that I was always a little afraid of in the beginning. My first successful north face run was a wall called Twinkle Twinkle, and it was a 5.8, I believe, and I was so proud when I finally made it to the top of it. I was devastated when they reset the wall, but then came the purple one. I don't have any memory or any pictures of what this wall was actually called, but my friends and I just called it Purple North Face. This was the first wall I ever flashed. Flashing a wall is when you make it to the top first try without falling, and this was the first one I ever did, and it blew me away. It was so much fun, it was so exciting, and I did it over and over and over again. Purple North Face became my warm-up, and it was a 5.9, which was pretty hard at the time for me, and all of my friends were so excited for me, and I'm so grateful for all of them. Purple North Face has now been reset many, many times, and I still miss it every day. But I still climb North Face pretty much every time I go climbing. I'm not gonna lie, it's North Face, those climbs, where my fear bubbles up. But I've learned to sit with the discomfort, to acknowledge it without letting it paralyze me. In those moments of discomfort where real growth happens, where I push beyond my perceived limits and discover new levels of resilience. That feeling when you reach the top of a challenging climb, knowing you faced your fear and conquered it, is intoxicating. That sense of accomplishment, of having overcome both a physical and mental challenge, is unlike anything else. It's a reminder of just how capable I truly am. There was a point at which I got too good, but not good enough to continue. And what I mean by that is I could not get past the level 5.9, so I just kept doing the 5.7, 5.8, and 5.9s over and over and over again. My favorite climbing buddy suggested that I try down climbing, and like an idiot, I said, "What's that?" And he said, "You're an idiot, it's when you climb downward." And I said, "No, I'd rather not." And he said, "Okay, well, if you climb Jigglypuff again," which was one of my favorite warm-up routes for quite a while, well, until they reset the wall, "you have to climb down." And I said, "Okay, I can probably make that happen." There, my fear returned. I love the feeling of chalk dust on my fingers, the solid grip of rock, and the mental puzzle of a climb. I'm a rock climber, through and through. But down climbing, that sounded horrible, and I avoided it like the plague, until Caden bullied me into it that day. It's not necessary on most climbs, or really all climbs, and the thought of deliberately reversing the ascent, each move leading me further from comforting ground, sent shivers down my spine. The climb up was about conquering, reaching a goal. Down climbing felt like controlled fall, a surrender to gravity and the very thing I was trying to defy. Initially, it was manageable, almost enjoyable. I felt a different kind of control, a deliberate, mindful approach to movement. I was making the fear work for me, forcing me to be more focused and precise. I even started to think, hey, maybe down climbing isn't so bad after all. But that's when it happened. I was halfway down a relatively moderate wall. Moderate, as in moderate for me at the time, it was Jigglypuff. I was feeling very confident, almost nonchalant. I glanced down, not at the holds, but at the ground below, as I'd done a million times before. And in that instant, the wall seemed to swell beneath me. My breath hitched. The familiar panic, the one I'd been so adept at managing, came crashing back. It wasn't the logical, rational fear of falling. It was the primal, gut-wrenching fear of the drop. It was the same feeling I experienced when I first started climbing, that raw, exposed sensation of being high above the ground. It was a fear I thought I had tamed, but here I was, back with a vengeance, triggered not by ascent, but by the reverse journey. Writing about it in my journal later that day made me realize something. The ascent, while challenging, is in many ways a subconscious distraction. I'm so focused on the next hold, on the upward path, that I often forget about the ground below. Down climbing, however, forces you to confront it. It's a slow, deliberate process of re-engaging with the height. It's a dance with gravity, one that doesn't offer the same sense of accomplishment as reaching the top. It's a necessary part of the sport, but for me, it's a reminder of the fear I carry with me. Whether I'm going up or down, I'll never be entirely rid of the butterflies in my stomach, but I've learned to coexist with them. Ultimately, climbing isn't just about reaching the top. It's the internal battle, the constant push to be better, and the quiet, powerful victory of facing your fears, one handhold at a time. And that, I believe, is a lesson worth climbing for. Another lesson I believe is worth climbing for is realizing that you only have one body and you should probably take care of it. We often hear about the importance of exercise for physical health, but what if it could be so much more? What if, instead of a chore, it became a passion, a source of joy, and a profound personal growth? That is the transformative power of embracing exercise as a hobby, and for me, that hobby is rock climbing. For years, my relationship with exercise was, well, strained. It was a necessary evil, something to be ticked off a to-do list. I went to the gym, did my time on the treadmill, and left feeling uninspired. Then, a friend dragged me into an indoor climbing gym, and everything was different. Rock climbing, I've discovered, is the microcosm of life. It's taught me so much more than how to strengthen my back and biceps. Here are a few ways it's been life-changing. First of all, I can, fall. Falling is part of the process. You can misjudge a move and your grip will slip and you'll find yourself back on the mat. But I've learned to dust myself off, figure out what I did wrong, and try again. I did this by bouldering, which is where you climb without the ropes and everything, and you fall over and over and over again. And this process of failure and recovery has instilled a newfound resilience that permeates all other aspects of my life. Plus, climbing has helped me reconnect with my body in a positive way. I've learned to appreciate its strength, flexibility, and its capabilities. Instead of seeing exercise as something I have to do, I see it as a way to explore and celebrate what my body can achieve. The WRC, where this rock wall isn't just a place to exercise, it's a community. I've met so many incredible people from all walks of life, all brought together by a shared passion. So many of my friends spend a lot of time here, and that's the reason we're such good friends. We encourage each other, share techniques, and celebrate each other's progress. This sense of belonging has been so invaluable to me. If there's ever a strange face at the rock wall, there's a gaggle of regulars, ready to encourage them, to belay them, to cheer them on, and to just be friendly. Let's talk about Purple North Face a little more. There's a particular kind of comfort that comes from the familiar. It's the worn groove in your favorite armchair, the practice routine of your morning coffee, the well-trodden path you take home. It's the feeling of safety found in the predictable, a haven from the swirling anxieties of the unknown, and just like in life, this need for the known manifests itself powerfully on the rock wall. Imagine you're halfway up a challenging route. Your muscles burn, your breath comes in ragged gasps, and the next move looks unnervingly far. In that moment, your eyes might be drawn not only to the most efficient holds, but to the ones you recognize, the ones you've gripped countless times before, the ones that feel like old friends offering a reassuring hand. You might even find yourself consciously avoiding the new, the different, the holds that promise progress but demand the vulnerability of the unfamiliar. This is the pull of familiarity, a powerful coping mechanism that often manifests as the form of avoidance. In life, we might cling to dead-end jobs, stale relationships, or limiting beliefs simply because they feel safe, even if they're ultimately holding us back. Similarly, on the climbing wall, we might stick to the same old routes, the same predictable movements, rather than venturing into the unknown challenges that would push us to grow. The climbing wall, much like life itself, presents us with a constant mix of the known and the unknown. There are the familiar jugs, reliable and easy to grip, like well-worn truths we cling to. Then there are the unfamiliar crimps, sharp and demanding, representing the challenges that force us to adapt and evolve. And just as the world outside the gym is a tapestry woven with both predictable routines and unexpected twists, the route ahead is a dynamic landscape presenting us with the choice between comfort and challenge. Clinging to those familiar holds can feel like a temporary sanctuary, a brief break from the uncertainty of the climb. It's like a climber stubbornly refusing to look at the next sequence, lost in the familiarity of the one they just did. It's akin to an anchor in a storm, something to grasp onto when the winds of uncertainty blow. But, like a rusty anchor, if relied upon without end, it could keep us stuck in place, preventing us from reaching new heights. Luckily, or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, the wall here at UNI gets reset. Often. Very often. So much so that it's devastating when you come in and your favorite route is gone. The one you worked so hard to get up the first time. The one you've put so much time into practicing and memorizing. It's just gone sometimes. And yeah, that sucks, but it's time for something new. The problem with familiarity as a coping mechanism is that it often stems from fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of being exposed, fear of falling, even. It's like a climber hesitating at the crux move, their mind conjuring up images of falling rather than focusing on the next grip. It's the comfort of a well-worn rut that starts to feel suffocating. Real growth, both on and off the wall, comes from venturing into the uncharted territory. It's about loosening our grip on the familiar and embracing the discomfort of the unknown. It's about recognizing that while the familiar might offer temporary comfort, it's in those challenging, unfamiliar moves that we discover our true strength and potential. So, next time you're facing a challenging climb, both literal and metaphorical, take a moment to examine your grip. Are you clinging to the familiar because it's genuinely beneficial, or because you're afraid to let go? Perhaps the most rewarding ascent isn't finding the safest path, but about embracing the challenges that push us to reach new summits, even if they require a leap of faith into the unknown. The rewards of letting go on this well-worn hold may just be greater than we ever imagined. I had an incredible opportunity to go down to South Carolina for the summer to be a rockball instructor at a summer camp. There's a special kind of satisfaction in helping someone else overcome their own anxieties, even as I continue to manage my own. It's a humbling experience to share the sport I've grown to love, especially knowing the initial obstacle I've personally had to overcome. Kids often ask if I'm scared when I climb, and I answer honestly, yes, sometimes I am. But, I tell them, it's not about never being afraid, it's about doing it anyway. For the younger ones, 7 to probably 10, the initial trepidation was often accompanied by wide-eyed wonder. They'd approach the rock with a mix of excitement and anxiety, tiny hands gripping holds a bit too tight, legs trembling slightly just like mine did. My role here was to build confidence through encouragement. I'd break down climbs into smaller, manageable sections, focusing on celebrating every small victory, from reaching the first hold to making it halfway up or even all the way up the wall. The look of pure joy on their face when they rang the bell on the top, a mix of pride and surprise, was incredibly rewarding. The older kids, up to 15 or 16, I think, were more keenly aware of their limitations, more prone to self-doubt, and sometimes more afraid to fail. Here, the emphasis shifted to strategic problem-solving and emotional resilience. We discussed different approaches to a climb, encouraged them to analyze the route ahead, and teach them to embrace the learning process even when they didn't reach the top on their first try. I only got each group of kids for 2 or 3 hours once a week. I was working 8-hour days, but these kids only got to climb for a couple hours. One particular memory stands out. It was a girl, probably 12, who initially refused to even put on a harness. Her fear was palpable, her eyes fixated on the ground. But through gentle coaxing and a lot of practice, she finally agreed to try a small, low-to-the-ground goal. Slowly, cautiously, she moved her hands and feet, her focus unwavering. To my surprise, she came back the next day with a different group of campers. And she did it again the next day. By the end of the week, she was not only reaching the top, but she stood taller, her body language radiating newfound confidence. The lessons learned on my climbing wall extended far beyond the physical. They learned the importance of trust both in their belayer, me, and in themselves. They discovered the power of perseverance, realizing that challenges, however daunting, could be overcome through steady effort. They learned to support each other, offering words of encouragement and celebrating each other's successes. This summer wasn't just about teaching kids how to rock climb. It was about helping them climb over their fear, build resilience, and unlock their potential. It was about witnessing the incredible transformation that can occur when given the opportunity to push past their comfort zone in a safe and supportive environment. And as I watched them reach the top again and again, ringing that bell, squeezing that rubber chicken that we put at the top halfway through the summer, I knew that the lessons they learned on that wall would stay with them for a long time, long after the summer ended, preparing them to tackle any challenge, big or small, with the same quiet courage and determination. This summer, I was more than a climbing teacher. I was a witness to the extraordinary power of the human spirit, and it was, without a doubt, one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. Since I started climbing a year ago, I have advanced to around a 510D. I'm not quite to 511A yet, but I'm working really hard on it, believe me. I'll eventually make a video about the different grading systems with bouldering and rock climbing, but today is not that day. This video has taken a ridiculous amount of time to put together. Anyways, I finished out 2024 with a 510A. The first time I did it, to my true shock, I flashed it. Of course, that's not one of the ones that I had my friends record, but I trust that you believe me. Climbing has been such an incredible outlet for me, and there's really no way I can fully explain how much it has done for me, both physically and mentally, and all of the other stuff like that. Emotionally, yeah, I could cry to this wall any day of the week, and I have cried on the wall, but that's, again, a story for another time. Today's story isn't about a complete eradication of fear. It's about learning to live with fear and to acknowledge it and to not let it dictate my path. Rock climbing has given me more than just a hobby. It's given me confidence, a passion, and a profound understanding that even the scariest challenges can be faced one hold at a time. And for that, I'll keep climbing. If you've made it this far into this video, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope I've inspired you to face your fears and maybe even join me on the wall sometime. For the last little bit of this video, I want to introduce you all to my cat, Sushi. Sushi, on several occasions, has gotten into my chalk bag and dumped it all over my rug, and then rolled in it. This has happened many times. So many times, in fact, that there is a designated spot where I actually have to hang my chalk bag, because if I set it on my dresser, or God forbid the floor, I'll come back to my dorm after class, and this pretty rainbow rug you see, it will be white. But I love her regardless. I mean, look at this thing. How can you not love her?